Hey guys, welcome in. So today I'm doing a different kind of video where I'm going to be demystifying the mixing process. And basically, I think it's one of those things that we all struggle with day in, day out, weeks, months, years. I mean, it's endless, and it's part of the joy of it and part of the curse of it. But, you know, one big thing I think that everyone gets so distraught on is, what is the purpose of mixing? You know, what am I supposed to do? Why do these sounds not sound good? How do I make them sound better? And obviously, this process takes forever. You know, I've been working in a recording studio for like 10 years, and it's really made me a lot better at it, and I practice every day. But I kind of wanted to go over the very simple basics of what you're trying to accomplish and why things aren't working when they're not working. So real simply, let's just listen to the song, get into it.
As above, so below, the varying degrees in between make it so. I want to vibrate higher so I can grow, so I can cope, so I can know. It's nothing.
Okay, so we got a song there. And, you know, to the average person who doesn't really care about mixing or do any of this kind of stuff that we do, they'd probably say, sounds all right, but it doesn't sound that good. And they will always be right, and they will always know because, you know, they're the listener, they're the consumer. You know, they are very used to a very polished sound that they hear on the radio, and when things don't sound that way, they're going to shut it off. You know, it gets lost in the mix. Now, a lot of the times you listen to something like that and you're like, okay, I know it could be a lot better, but what do I do? Where do I start? You know, it's a very daunting question and almost impossible to pinpoint to one simple thing, because it's not one simple thing. It's hundreds of simple things that you put together, and each increment, you make it a little better and better, 1% by 1%. And sometimes the simplest way to put it is, you know, if you do something and you feel that it enhances a sound, you are on the right track. And when you take that enhancement off and your ear wants it back, you know you're probably going in the right direction, at least most of the time. But real simply put, let's just get into demystifying this in a simple way. So let's just listen to the vocal now.
As above, so below, the varying degrees in between make it so. I want to vibrate higher so I can grow, so I can cope.
So basically, one easy way to determine what's wrong with a sound is turn it up loud. Crank that up, and you'll notice that eventually things are jumping out at you that are either harsh or painful or wompy or muddy or all these things that you can just feel that doesn't sit right. And it's not that easy to tell when you have all this music and everything going around it, because it's being, you know, you're being distracted. But by itself, you're going to notice that that doesn't sound like a clean vocal. And what that basically is anomalies in the frequency balance, you know, the frequency spectrum. You know, we hear 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, and depending on the voice and the recording, the equipment, all these millions of different factors, the alignment of the frequency is not going to be in tune. It's going to just be off, and you're not going to know why it sounds bad, but that's basically, in a small nutshell, why it's out of alignment. So let's bring up a very simple tool. This is a great tool just to kind of go with the basics. You got a visualizer, it's a graphic EQ, nice and simple by waves. And let's just take a look at this audio.
As above, so below, the varying degrees in between make it so. I want to vibrate high.
So we can see a lot of content, you know, especially in the mid-range, you know, all through here. One thing I noticed right off the bat is there's a lot of sibilance to this vocal, and remember, if things are jumping out at you, they're going to distract you and distract the listener, and it's not going to sound good. So let's get a sibilance plugin and just throw on a quick preset and, you know, take away some of that distracting sibilance, because it's harsh and it's too much of that frequency content, so it's hurting our ears. It's harsh.
As above, so below.
So there we go.
Varying degrees in between.
So now we're removing that, attenuating that, and it's sitting a little bit better already, just taking away that harshness. So now getting back to the meat and potatoes of the vocal.
As above, so below, The varying degrees in between make it so.
We can see a lot of mid-range content in this vocal, and essentially that's almost what every vocal recording looks like. It's a whole bunch of mid-range and low-end content. The high end is usually a lot less, and it's not exactly fitting to a musical mix. And what's interesting is our ears, the way we perceive sound with our human ears, it filters a lot of this stuff out to make things sound actually really good. And, you know, a lot of people will tell you, good mix engineers, listen, you know, if you walk into a room and you hear someone and they go into the vocal booth and it doesn't sound like that, you're not going to get a good sound. I mean, it's just not what they sound like. You know, all these anomalies are changing that proximity effect, equipment, everything, all this stuff. And essentially, if they don't sound like a normal human being the way they're supposed to, the way we, you know, sometimes can hear them normally, it's not going to translate even well into the mix. Even though, obviously, for a mix, you might have to push things very extreme to get a good sound, like tons of high-end and sheen and all this stuff that, you know, becomes abnormal because it's all a giant illusion. That's what we hear these days. Anyways, so getting back to this, and looking at the frequency content here, we're going to notice there's parts that are jumping out and basically just an imbalance. So let's address these right now.
As above, so below. The varying degrees in between make it so.
Turning down that low end.
Vibrate higher so I can grow. So I can cope.
Turning down that boxy 400ness.
Cause nothing is what it seems.
Taking away that 600 mid-range metallic.
A clever rules
taking away that 1K nasal pain.
Cause everything is edible.
Taking away some more harshness.
Exhibit wisdom. The mysticism of religious schism. I saw the mistress in the vision of love, but who knows, it was probably the drugs.
Let's take away the content that's not there.
You on one, I'm on them all. High enough to wanna fall. And I'm flying.
And now, obviously, we've done a lot of attenuation, so the volume is different. Always gain match so your ears are not fooled by loudness. So let's level match. Bring this up. Find a balance.
As above, so below. The varying degrees in between make it so. I want to vibrate higher so I can grow. So I can cope. So I can know.
There you go. It's not perfect, but it paints a picture and it makes a point that basically when we dull all these you know, out of line frequencies that are jumping out at us, the vocal just feels a little bit more normal. It feels better and more suited to a mix. You know, let's do that one more time.
As above, so below. The varying degrees in between make it so.
Bring that back in. You kind of get all this wompy, woolly, nasally, boxy, all, you know, whatever jargon you want to use. It's like all this stuff that jumps out and it's not pleasant. And we put this on.
As above, so below. The varying degrees in between make it so. I want to vibrate higher so I can grow.
You know, not bad. That definitely helps a lot. Now let's bring in the music because, you know, mixing in solo is a dangerous game, and a lot of times you can make mistakes that way, but sometimes it's good to get a clear focus on it. But let's bring back the music and the context because that's important.
As above, so below. The varying degrees in between make it so. I want to vibrate higher so I can grow. So I can cope. So I can know. Okay,
so now we got the music back. Now let's turn off and on our EQ and just see how it sits, how it aligns itself with the instrumental track.
As above, so below. The varying degrees in between make it so. I want to vibrate higher so I can grow. So I can cope. So I can know. Cause nothing is what it seems. You can only tell the fruit by the seeds.
And right there, you can see that paints a pretty big picture. And I'm not saying it's perfectly volume balanced or whatever, but that vocal sits so much better now that its EQ is aligned. It's balanced better. The frequencies that were annoying and jumping out at us are tucked away. And it allows it to fit with the music more normal, to be honest. So let's add a few little extra things just to get this vocal in check.
As above, so below. The varying degrees in between make it so. I wanna vibrate higher so I can grow, so I can cope, so I can know. Cause nothing is what it seems. You can only tell a fruit by the seeds. A clever rules of the vegetables to keep the elect confused, cause everything is edible.
And I know I went really fast there, but bear with me. I just added a compressor to glue it in, some tape saturation just to give it a little vibe, maybe a little more high-end content or distortion, whatever you want to call it. And then the CLA vocals to just sort of add some reverb, delay, spread it, just kind of give it a little more polish. Now, with all that on, let's turn on and off REQ, again, the main focus here, the alignment of it, and just feel what that does with a little more polish.
To vibrate higher so I can grow, so I can cope, so I can know. Cause nothing is what it seems. You can only tell a fruit by the seeds. A clever rules of the vegetables to keep the elect confused, cause everything is edible. Symbolism meant to exhibit wisdom. The mysticism.
So hopefully it's becoming more painfully obvious that that's a really, really big factor in what we're doing here. Is we're just trying to align frequencies so they mesh together and we get a balance. You know, obviously, I won't lie to you, you know, I've been doing this professionally for a long time. There's a lot more ingredients to get that extra polished perfection sound that we're all after. You know, multi-band compressors, parallel effects, it goes on and on and on. But I'm just trying to demystify the simple basics here first, where we get so lost in, like, what are we doing as a mix engineer? What is our job? It's to fix problems. It's to search for things that are unpleasing to the listener and, you know, control them so we get a pleasing sound. And that's what's so beautiful, I think, about this video, is that we're just kind of painting a very simple picture here with, hey, why is this vocal not sounding good over this mix? You know, there's a lot of reasons, but a big reason is just it's out of alignment. And obviously it has to be kept in check, you know, compressed dynamically to sit properly too. That's why I added a few extra things, but nonetheless, you can't argue with this right here.
To vibrate higher so I can grow, so I can cope, so I can know. Cause nothing is what it seems. You can only tell a fruit by the seeds.
And then to wrap this video up, another way to hit this home is looking here now at the beat. Frequency content of the beat, same EQ plugin.
To vibrate higher so I can grow, so I can cope, so I can know. Cause nothing is what it seems. You can only tell a fruit by the seeds. A clever rules of the vegetables to keep the elect confused, cause everything is edible.
So, very simple trick, but I just pulled out a lot of 500 in the beat. And I want you to just listen to how the vocal sits with that dip. And I'm not saying this is the right move or the wrong move. Just feel the difference. Remember, this is all a balance alignment game. Just listen to this, right?
To vibrate higher so I can grow, so I can cope, so I can know. Cause nothing is what it seems.
Let's turn the beat up louder so we can feel it.
Fruit by the seeds. A clever rules of the vegetables to keep the elect confused, cause everything is edible. Symbolism meant to exhibit wisdom. The mysticism of religious schism. I saw the mistress in a vision of love, but who knows, it was probably the drugs. You on one, I'm on them all. High enough to wanna fall. And I'm fly enough, I'm on a wall and not attracted to that whack shit, not at all.
So, really big difference right there. Obviously, we pumped up the music a bit more to fit with the vocals because that's a big part of it, is we're trying to marry those two together. But once again, there was an out of alignment of frequency content, and there was a lot of things jumping out in the music that was fighting the vocal. And you know what I did is I pulled some 500 to make some room for the vocal. Felt like the guitars and all this stuff was fighting around the 2.5K. And then the cymbals, especially in hip hop beats, like vicious, you know, so they're, you know, I knocked down that 12K where we could see it was peaking. And then I could probably even pull some bass out too and get it to sit better too, because with hip hop beats, you know, crazy low end. But let's just feel this one more time to hit this video home.
To vibrate higher so I can grow, so I can cope, so I can know. Cause nothing is what it seems. You can only tell a fruit by the seeds. And clever rules of the vegetables to keep the elect confused, cause everything is edible. Symbolism meant to exhibit wisdom. The mysticism of religious schism. I saw the mistress in the...
Pretty amazing. And, you know, keep in mind, I'm doing this with headphones, so I can't hear and feel everything the way I want to, but as soon as we bypass that EQ, all this stuff jumps out that claws at the vocal and fights it. And it's kind of amazing just to see and hear that difference, where that's kind of the name of the game. That's one of the biggest tasks we are trying to achieve as mix engineers, yet we get so clouded with the tiny technical things and, oh, what does this plugin do? What does that plugin do? It's like, it doesn't matter. It's like, just focus on the goal at hand. Look at it with a scalpel as an engineer, as a scientist, whatever you feel like, and just be like, all right, this does not sound good. Why is it? Let's get to it. Let's fix it. Let's be an engineer. You know? So that's what I'm trying to drive home. All right, guys. So long video, long-winded, forgive me, but hopefully this kind of demystifies the whole process of mixing, shed some light on what tasks you need to achieve and what goals you need to set for yourself to just get better sound and a better mix and everything. Basically, subscribe, like the video, share this. Please, I want a lot of people to hear and see this because I think it'll help them a lot, so spread the love, you know. All right, guys, gonna wrap up this video, but thanks so much and take care.